Welcome to Ulua. You live, you work, you art.
Hello, how are you? In this episode, I will talk about death. And death can be it can be complex, as we have already seen. It can be complex. It can be difficult to transit or to process or to go through when it happens in our lives. But also is used to fuel us forward. Actually, there are some coaching questions that maybe you have been asked in the past or you've heard of, which are, for example, what do you do if you had no fear at all of death? Or what would you do if you could live forever? Or what would you do if you knew that tomorrow you would die, for example? So these are like specific questions made by coaches. Sorry, I'm not crying. It's just that I'm a little bit with the flu. And death is something that can move forward or can keep us stuck. And also we know there are these 5 stages of death we have already talked about in the other section called Between the Lines. And this death is present everywhere, every day in the world. Sometimes we don't see it face to face every day, but it is there. And sometimes we see it when we have the death of someone we love, and or maybe we are letting ourselves die in the sense of letting some part of us that has to go, and we already know that we don't want that in our life in order to move forward, or in order to grow, or in order to become a better version of ourselves, become a better person. And so death is like a huge thing, just like love. Maybe we can say, okay, we can talk about the physical death of people, we can talk about the death of someone we love, or we can talk about some death from letting go things from our lives. There is also death that has a process or a way of navigating it in order to go out of that process. Because if we keep stuck in that process, we end up in depression. And maybe if we are too long, or too long in depression, we can have different we can have sad story. But that's not the idea here. The story is for it to be something that even in some culture is celebrated. Death is celebrated. And I remember when I was a child, man used to say that my great grandparents and other people at that time, and I remember seeing even some photos, not from my great grandparents, but from other people's grandparents that my age, where people used to celebrate. They used to make a party after the person had died. In some cases, it was not religions, something religious specifically, but it was because maybe people from different parts of the countries would come to the house of the people who had died, the person who had died, and then they would make a party in order to, celebrate this occasion of reunion, family reunion. And in other cases, it was specifically to celebrate the death of a relative one. And it wasn't because they hated that person. It was because they celebrated the passing through to another stage, like going to heaven or whatever it is that they felt that the person went to. So it could have different connotations depending on where you want to look this death. If you want to look death from with your lenses of happiness, you could do that. If you want to view death with sadness, it's also valid. So death can trigger different emotions in people. And even just by mentioning this, I remember once I met a person that she said, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to even hear that word because it makes me afraid what will happen with me when I'm dead. And I remember I take it humorously, but I will mention later why is that I'm doing this. I choose to do that most of the time. Sometimes I can't because it may be really, really close to me, this situation, and sometimes I cannot laugh, but be sad and cry. It depends on the situation, right? But I remember, wow, I've never been afraid of death in my case. So you can tell me if you are afraid of death. Maybe you don't even want to listen to this episode because you are afraid of the word itself and everything that it represents. But yeah, I've never been afraid of death. So I don't know if it was because of my religious upbringing or why, but I have never been afraid of this. And so I have taken out of my life many of those beliefs that I had in my childhood. I'm not afraid of death. And at the same time, I don't want to die. The more I can stay on Earth, the better, because there are so many things I still want to do and to try and whatnot here on Earth. So I think both things can go hand in hand. And I guess that I will talk about my experience because I don't know about everyone else. But maybe I'm not afraid of the dying itself, because it's something that will happen to all of us. And from an early age, I've been I don't know if being around this, it sounds like so. For some people, it could sound like creepy. For others, it could sound like mysterious. But life is around us, and yeah, I think it's because I'm at peace with death. Again, I want to live as long as possible. But this is part of life, and that is something I think I have learned from an early age. And I remember when we talked about this in the other section, again, between the lines, and Dr. Peck says that death is an ingredient to life. Because if we didn't have this, we could say, constant menace or constant threat to our lives, maybe we wouldn't have this, on the other hand, of course, on this experience of life, or to live life as our life in its fullest. At the same time, I have it has been 2 years almost now that my cat passed away, and I still feel it like it's though 2 years have passed. I can still feel sometimes some sadness about that. It can feel still uneasy to speak about that. But again, in general, at least for me, from myself, for my body, we could say, I'm not afraid of dying again. And this is because I think, because I've been close to death many times in life. And from an early age, I remember having a complicated pneumonia. when I was a child. I was like 10 years or 11, something like that. And I was in bed for a long time. I think it was like 3 months or something. And I think nowadays I would be hospitalized and put into coma, maybe induced coma, because I wasn't responding most of the time. But I am also glad that they didn't do that. I don't know why. I don't know if the doctors didn't have, I don't know, experience, enough space, or whatever it was. But I just spent that time at home, and I remember. I remember about this. I had completely forgotten for many years, and I remember this the other day. And when I told my partner for the first time that everyone at home was expecting for me to, like we say here, to partir, to go away someplace. Because I remember one day just opening my eyes like that and seeing I can still see that. Now I remember my grandma and an aunt and my mother and my father standing there, and they were all expecting me from just to go away. Because I could read the faces. And I remember thinking, I don't want to die. And it was not because I was afraid of dying, because I thought I had so many things still to learn. And luckily, I'm here still. And so I don't understand this being afraid of death. And I talked to some friends, where you can talk to some people, mostly friends, about these topics, because it seems like also a taboo nowadays, or at least from what I've seen. I'm always talking about my experience. And some have said, I don't know, if I just die, I am not afraid of dying. Others said, no, yes, I'm afraid of what will happen to the people that love me when I die. And maybe I'm taking the selfish perspective of thinking that I'm not really afraid of death, and maybe not thinking about the others. And I also remember when I was in Indonesia that I have some certain situations where I wasn't that close to death as the previous experience I mentioned. But yeah, I was kind of in a danger because there are no security measures and that kind of thing. And I took it humorously at the time, and I remember meeting some friends there, some people from Spain, when everything is like more order and structure, and they have, I don't know, everything is secure and everything is organized, and you wouldn't, for example, be able to go on a ship that has not the correct security measures and that kind of thing. And that doesn't happen in Indonesia. Indonesia is like, I guess they aren't afraid of death either. And actually, I could read some tourist books, the one that's tourist guides and that kind of thing. And they say like 14,000 boats disappeared every day there because of security measures, storms, or wherever. Even when I was there in 6 months' time, some planes had gone down. So it's like a common thing there. And that is like accepted. It's just part of life. Maybe too lightly for us Westerners, but that is what happens. And I remember these Spaniards, these people from Spain, and I really laughed a lot when they were telling me this, because I was traveling also by ship, and we would meet in certain islands or stop for just a day or so. So I met several friends, maybe for just one time. Actually, I haven't seen them ever again. But we had so much fun speaking in Spanish also together, and they were telling me how they were so fearful because the boat was full with roaches, was full with also with cracks everywhere, and they were navigating, and these waters are not really calm. Actually, one of the nights we have some episodes there, like it was kind of complicated because ships were I mean, the storm was really complicated in the Indic Ocean, and so it was really funny when they were telling me this, because I was at the time, I think I was just thinking like an Indonesian at the time, because had been living there several months, and I had also seen so many insecure for us Westerners again ways of living and measures and that kind of thing. I really laughed a lot about that. Maybe I wouldn't today, I don't know. But if you are in certain places, you are just used to the things that they are used to. You have to accommodate yourself, you have to adapt yourself, because that's the way of living in that place. And these guys were only, these people were only for vacation there, so they didn't really know how things were on the other side of the world. Anyways, they were really afraid of drowning in that place. And actually, they did have, they didn't know about what I was telling you, that 40,000 boats drown or get sunk in Indonesian waters every year. So it's something to take into account if you want to go there. Just be sure you have all the security, or as much as security measures that you can have in order to go there. But again, I went sideways. Again, just telling some funny stories. Yeah, so I went again sideways talking about these funny stories. But there are some ideas, like for this. Again, Dr. Peck says that death is an ingredient of life, because we have death and life. It's like, from my point of view, this is like these are the two sides of the same coin, life and death. So it's constant, like a shadow of life. Death is the shadow of life. And I'm not trying to romanticize it or anything, because I've had in the past an acquaintance that she was a goth, and she would romanticize death, and death was like everything. No, I mean, really, death is part of life. It's the shadow of life, or life is the shadow of death, in that case for her. But it's present in our daily life, because we could be dead at any moment. And there is this idea of memento mori, which comes from the idea that it's actually an ancient it's an ancient practice for you to remember that every day that you are going to die someday. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. We don't know when, but it will happen to us. So I guess that is why I'm not afraid of death, because I say we are all going to die some way or another, someday or the other, and this is part of life. Again, that doesn't mean that I'm not sad because my cat died, or I'm not sad because my grandpa's died, or I'm not sad because some people that I love have died. No, it doesn't translate into that. And coming back to these coaching questions that we mentioned, death can put you in perspective, right? It's like, night is going to come, or day is going to come, And you could ask, for example, am I ready to, or have I accomplished everything I wanted to so far? And with the things that have happened, I am okay enough with that. And I think it was Steve Jobs that had this exercise. He mentioned once that he would go every day into his mirror, in front of his mirror, and ask the question, are you happy with the things you're doing right now? And if 3 days in a row the answer was no, he would change that thing, or he would change something in his life, or try to change, or start the process of changing. And this is exactly the same when you ask the question, what would happen if I die today? I would be okay. Because it also sets like a matter of urgency, I think, in life. And it's also could be applied to business. What would happen if we had to close tomorrow? In the case of businesses, we could say, what could I do in order to prevent that dying of the business? Or yes, I think it would go in a different way. But in our case, that we know that we are not immortal, it could help us put us in perspective. If we are doing the things that we want to do, if we are doing the best we can right now with the things we have on hand, or if we should change paths and maybe start the process of changing with the things we have right now, or how can we go to another place from where we are right now? Because I think, again, this sense of immersions that we could get from this new perspective, this new, okay, what would happen? I've seen this a lot in many people, that they don't really think about what will happen with them, or if they are happy, for example. I know even some close people, people that are close to me, or family, or everything, they have never asked themselves if they have been happy in their lives, or if they are happy right now. And even more important, what they could do in order to be, maybe happy is not the word, at peace with their lives. I know happy is like just start. At least it was for me. I moved certain things in life because I wanted to be happy, and then I realized maybe happy is not the goal. Happy is in the way, and my goal is to be at peace with me, with myself, with life, with the people that are around me, and everything. But again, if you ask yourself if you are happy, it could be a start just to go there in order to change something in your life. And this getting into perspective can help you, for example, forget about the stupid things. And let me say that frankly, stupid things that we are always afraid of. Oh, but what happens if I go out and, I don't know, a track strikes me, or what would happen if I don't have money in 10 years, or that just gets you stuck. You need to, I mean, it's not bad to think about those things very little in your daily life. I mean, yes, you can have a plan and you can have everything, but just by understanding what is that you really need, or you really want, or you want to pursue in life, which isn't exactly purpose for me, but this thing, knowing that you could, for example, if, let's ask this question from coaching, if you would die tomorrow, what would be your great regrets? And so make a list of 10 items that you would regret not having done, your bucket list, we could say, and start doing that. Again, that doesn't work for me specifically, because I have a lot of items I would like to do. But that is a good start, to just know what are the things that you want to do in life. For some people it will work, for the others just by having one thing that they want to do may set the perspective for them to move to another direction in life. And some people will do the list and they will follow every single step in the way. I won't go into the specific why that doesn't serve me well, I would say. Because I have explored that and several other ways of doing that. But I think it's a start, and a good start. For example, if you were dead tomorrow, and would you have been happy with the current job you have? And for many people, it is a great no. And yet we keep on doing that. We keep on the same job and we keep doing the same things. And what most people have the regret of doing is not traveling, as we sometimes say, oh, I would love to travel around the world, or I would love to do this and that and that. But actually, when they are dead, when they are asked about this, the main question is not having good relationships in life. And that is something that you can start today, building yourself up, building relationships, at least one other person at first, and then moving forward. That, I mean, just an general example, maybe not for everyone. Maybe some people will want to be alone in the mountain, but this is a study that I don't know where I heard about it, but it said that most people would have loved to have a better relationship, not only with life, but with their family and with their friends, and having people to rely on. So I think that's something to have in mind. And again, there's no one specific exercise or practice you should do in order to have death present in your life. And also, please don't take it as a, I don't know if excuse to go and do like crazy stuff, like crazy styles of meditation that I've heard people have done. And there are some cases that they have died in this type of things, trying to understand death. And that's not funny at all. And there are some studies on that, and some documentaries on that, and some books. Even one of the journalists that has written about it, and I will talk more when I talk about this misunderstanding of spirituality someday. He's Scott Carney, in case you want to find him. Some people have gone to the extremes, and without psychological preparation, without having a real understanding of what these practices were. So don't go to the extremes either. Just try to understand and put yourself in perspective. If you had, for example, recently the death of someone, and you're still going under this grieving process, maybe it's not a good right time to do that. So it's up to you to decide when to do that. And always it's good to have someone else by your side and not just doing it blindly, because it could have bad consequences. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about death and why I take it humorously most of the time. I know for some people it's horrendous thing that I'm doing, just laughing at this. And again, I'm laughing because I'm not having right now anything to do with that. But I remember even when I was younger, I remember I always say that I was this robot without feelings. I would not cry anywhere. And I remember even in many funerals having a big laugh with. There's always a relative that tells you jokes and has fun all the time in these funerals. And I would go with these kind of people. I would laugh my ass off during the funerals. And we were kicked out of some funerals with some friends. Even at the death of one of his parents, one of my friends was laughing at it and everything because that was his way to cope with this. But we were kicked out of the funeral. We couldn't stop laughing. But of course, everything is like you take it, and in this case, that was our coping mechanism for the situation. So you will have to find your own way into this. And yeah, still at the concept of death, I can still laugh. But not when it happens again to people that I really love, or sometimes yes, I do laugh at the same time that I'm crying, and then I'm laughing. And but anyways, tell me if you have had some experience with this thing, with this with death, and if it has put you into perspective, even thinking about it. Maybe you didn't have this real experience of death or a relative. I hope not, but we will all have one day or another in our lives, one way or another. And just tell me if there is something that you can I don't know if rescue is the word, if you could take from the situation and learn and say, okay, I have learned this and this and this after the time has passed, and after I've gone through anger, grief, and every step of the process. And remember, if you are stuck in depression, as we talked in the episode from The Road Less Traveled, just go and see a doctor, because that's something else that we can treat you here right now in this episode. So anyways, I think I think death is again the shadow of life, so it's constantly there. The more we light up our life, the more the shadow on this side. So we have to, from time to time, see it and try to diminish that shadow and understand that death is always at the in some corner. So thank you again for being here. Please comment if you have had anything regarding this. If you are also weird and laughing at funerals like I used to do, and I hope you haven't been kicked out of funerals too. And have fun. See you next time. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Uluwa's next episode.